Hey, got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about fantasy running backs and our draft strategies. So take a listen and hear how to win your fantasy league. All right. This is We Called It, as always, joined with Connor Lucas and Dr. Kenneth Call. How you doing, Connor?
So we got to work on your
It,
intro, man.
I know, my intros are trash. I'll give it to you. They're garbage. All right, so I had it like do a spotlight on me and then transition to view us all, and I'm like, oh man, there's no good, like if we had some music in right there, it would be perfect, but there was no break, and I'm like, ah, crap, screwed that up. Sorry,
All right,
listeners.
well, we got it. We got to get Craig on that. Okay, Craig's gonna have to help us out here. But we're gonna have to talk to him, and it sounds like he's the tech guy. So you guys know him. He's one of your 10 brothers. So
He's a recording bot on Discord.
oh,
All
He
right,
looks like a bear.
all right. So I guess we can just get straight into it. We're gonna be looking through.
and we
I
don't care how you are. Thanks for coming.
correct. Ken doesn't matter. We can't see. We can't see his
I
face. We have a
am
picture
here.
of him. That's it. Ken and Craig. They
Someday I'll
don't
get a
really
video.
count.
One day.
Yeah. Anyways, we got the Fantasy Pros draft, or was it running back rankings up, and we have ADP versus expert consensus rankings. Have it color coordinated by where running backs are going right now. We're just going to go through the list, say what we like, don't like, and what seems about right. I guess so. The very first four, the big four going in fantasy draft right now. This is half PPR rankings, by the way. We have Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with those rankings in terms of running backs. However, the only two I'm willing to take because of injury history is probably Jonathan Taylor and Austin Eckler.
Eckler got hurt, what, 2 years ago? He was healthy last year, but he was like not on the field very much. He had that really bad like hamstring injury 2 years ago that he was out for like a significant amount of time. I think it was Eckler. Maybe
It
not.
was no. You're right. You're right.
So
Saying it almost tore off the bone. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like not able to walk for a significant amount of time.
all right. So the reason I like Eckler more than the other two is because they use him as a receiving back, and even though he played 16 games last year, he only had 206 rushes. I think the Chargers' offense is going to be really good, and they need him as a receiving threat because they have two good receiving options, and his play out of the backfield makes a big difference for the offense. So,
I don't disagree with you. My question is, are we doing redraft or dynasty for this? Redraft, right?
redraft. That's the most generic. Got to help the most people possible. Ugh.
Fair enough.
And
So
half
redraft-
point, right?
Half point
Half point
PPR.
PPR.
Yeah.
All right.
Uh, go ahead, Jen.
All right. I completely agree. I mean, the big thing with Austin Eckler, I mean, if you look at the teams they're from, Indy, the Chargers, Panthers, Titans. I mean, that offense is just so good. I'm expecting a lot of big shootouts. And he's good out of the backfield for passing. He's good for rushing. I don't like. I mean, I don't think he's going to get as many carries as the other guys, but in the high-powered offense. He had like 20 touchdowns last year. I don't think he's going to do that again, but I mean, he's still going to be able to find the end zone. So definitely like Austin Eckler in that first group there.
Realistically, I think Jonathan Taylor is the unanimous one. Healthy, great offensive line, runs well. So I guess the question we're really asking is, who number two? I think it sounds like we're leaning Eckler. And how much do you trust McCaffrey and Henry? I guess you can even blend it to Dalvin Cook, who's next on the list in terms of like their health and trusting them. Because this is your first pick. You gotta waste high draft capital. If you lose it, you're missing a lot of guys that are talented before you come back around in the draft.
Yeah, I think football. You say Jonathan Taylor, but stats tell you I think it's something like nobody in the last 12 years has repeated his RB1. Some we're
No
talking
one
about
repeats.
stats
It's
here.
very, very hard. Except like unless you're LT or Jerry Rice, it's very hard just to be the number one at your position year after year.
So yeah, you still want to take him. I would be interested to know the stat behind how many finished top 5 the following season after having an RB1 season. You can kind of make a little bit of a dart throw and say, all right, it's not going to be him again. Yeah, Jonathan Taylor is the unanimous one. I would agree with Eckler too. McCaffrey, he hasn't had a ton of injuries that are like PCL. Okay, so he's had soft tissue injuries like hamstrings or ankles, like stuff that isn't like super crazy significant. I would probably have him as 3. I think, man, Henry he's the ultimate guy who is the last frontier, I guess, for 1990 to 1995 to like 2010, run the ball a billion times and then pass to set up the after you've run the ball a million times. And like guys nowadays, you want an Eckler way more than you want a Derrick Henry. But because of his volume, the only thing that he has is volume. He doesn't catch very many passes out of the backfield. He doesn't have great hands, and he's not great in space. But if he gets the ball 50 times a game, how can you argue with that? I would personally rather have Cook and maybe Najee over Henry because they're more threats out of the backfield. Najee's supposed to have his workload cut down on third downs this year, but they didn't really. Who did they draft to put in that in that role? Anybody? I don't even think they did.
They got Mitch Trubisky. He can run the ball a little bit for third downs.
Who is their third down running back? I mean, a year ago, Anthony McFarland Jr., but like that's nothing. You know what I mean?
And Benny Snell Jr. Really I guess they have they're 2 second and third year guys.
Yeah, but those guys barely touched the ball last year.
And they weren't very good I guess no one was good for the Steelers when they touched the ball last year. But again, Najee Harris, you're cutting down on what? Him getting 10 catches for 10 yards on third down?
Yeah.
So,
PPR.
Yeah. I love Dalvin Cook this year. I mean, he definitely disappointed last year, but a lot of that was his touchdowns. I mean, he had something like astronomically low. I mean, it was like something like, was it 4 or 6 touchdowns last year?
He had 6 rushing touchdowns.
He had 6 rushing touchdowns, and he had like 20 rushes inside the top or inside the 3 or something like that. It was something crazy. But new coach there. I just like the offense. Thielen's still there. Justin Jefferson, we'll talk a lot about him when we talk about wide receivers, but complete stud over there. I just think there's a lot of room for improvement. I think he's good enough to be used in the passing game. I'm just expecting more of a bounce back from him. I'm not as high on Najee this year, and it's solely because just his style. Like, he's not going to break out 80-yard runs. He's not, and I just don't like that offense, and it has all to do with the quarterbacks. They're going to be playing some good teams in a good division, and I just don't know if they'll be able to keep up statistically offensively. If they're going to win games, they're going to be defensive grindouts, and but I just don't think that Big Ben pampering him with all those 3-yard, 5-yard catches is really going to add up this year.
Yeah, I don't either. I think he's going to have a fall off, but he still also doesn't have much competition. He's going to be a volume guy. Volume is king in the fantasy, in my opinion. Some people are like, oh, talent over whatever. I think opportunity and volume is just number one. Dalvin, by the way, has one of the best backups in the NFL, and they single-handedly put him in, let him have like a 25-point fantasy game, and then pulled him right back out when Dalvin Cook was healthy. They are locked for him. They gave him a huge contract, and they pretty much said, no matter what happens, you're our guy. He's probably got 2 more years, I would say, before they start looking elsewhere. But they also, that new guy, the new coach, is it? I don't even know who their head coach is now. He came from the.
He's the Rams offensive coordinator, something like that.
So supposedly he's going to get him more involved in the passing game this year, and so that's where I could say Cook could jump up. McCaffrey, man, Doesn't matter. He gets all the volume. He could be the RB1 this year, and I think he will be probably top 5, even if he plays 13 or 14 games. That offense is just not good.
Yeah,
Their offensive line is just not good. Their defense is just not good. They're going to be a bad team. They're probably scheduled to be bottom 3 in the league this year. So you take if I would rather have Cook on a good team. By the way, I think we said this last week. Vikings were combined, like they lost by like 25 points for like in the total for the whole year, something crazy. So I think that flips a little bit, and they're going to be winning more games this year. I think that is a huge thing for a team like that who wants to run the football. Now, that was historically. New guy wants to pass the ball, sure. But you look at Sean McVay, I think he has consistently had, minus last year, if he has a healthy running back, they're like top 5 or top 10 consistently in fantasy football every year. And this guy's going to be a Sean McVay disciple.
Yep.
So if you get the right one, which I'm Minnesota's likings, it's going to be Dalvin Cook. I think he has the opportunity to be top 5 easy.
I mean, yeah. So if you look at these like first 5 color groups I have, so that goes down to Aaron Jones, and you say, okay, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, they are the leads of a run first offense. They don't count towards this. My idea though is who's on a good offense here? It's only Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, and maybe Javonte Williams. I think will be good, and then Nick Chubb if the Browns are healthy, and then Austin Eckler. So you're talking half of these guys. You're praying for volume compared to the other half, which are like, hey, you know what? These guys are on good offenses. Even if they're not having a great year, they can still sneak out some touchdown upside.
Yeah, I think. Are we moving into the next tier?
We can go down. So we'll look at Joe Mixon through Aaron Jones. I have not much to say about these guys. Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones are the guys I like here. I'm not a fan of the middle ones, though.
Shocked. I am a little bit shocked at that. Ken?
So, Alvin Kamara's there, and I got to tell you, I'm just a big fan of him. I like the way he looks just so effortless when he runs. You know, he can do, I mean, he was asked to do a little too much last year with, having no team around him, having no receivers whatsoever. They fixed that. The whole thing is, with that suspension, I'm just out on him. Like, there's supposedly a video that's coming out, and, that's the difference between 2 to 4 games and 6 to 8. And yeah, I mean, that's just a long time. You're going to start your season off with a high pick that's just not there. If you have the IR spot and if he falls to you, sure. But no, my big thing is Aaron Jones. Like, so, with Devontae Adams leaving there, Aaron Rodgers that offense is going to be just fine. They have the, back-to-back MVP on their team. He gets the ball to guys he trusts. And right now it's Aaron Jones and Aaron Jones. And so, of course, there's going to be other people that pop up, but I know that A.J. Dillon's going to be there. He's definitely going to steal some carries, steal some goal line carries, but I think Aaron Jones does enough, especially in a PPR league, where he's going to catch enough to be a difference maker. And I really think that, if Green Bay's smart, they'll get both of them out there at the same time. You got to play your players. Going back, I completely agree that it's all about volume, but at the same time, don't forget about talent. And Aaron Jones is talent. And if Aaron Rodgers has anything to say, he's going to get his guys out there, and Aaron Jones is one of them. I'm expecting a big year from him. I would not be surprised at all if he's the leading receiver on that team. So
just a reminder, in the playoffs or in the 49ers game, I think Rodgers threw like 30, I don't know how many passes, but like 80% went to Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. It was ridiculous. They were the only ones with double-digit targets. Everyone else had like 3 or fewer. So
yeah,
you trust.
So if you're talking about people who can jump tiers, in these first few here, I mean, obviously lower has better chance. I see Aaron Jones as like my number one to like most likely to jump tiers and be more in that like first round talent towards the end of the season.
All right, so Connor, we got a big range of people. We haven't talked about many. Who are you looking at?
I am shocked. You guys are crazy. I Nick Chubb. I'm out on Nick until they get rid of Kareem. I'm not out on him. He's Derrick Henry light,
He
and
he's my favorite player. Let me say that. Like as a Browns fan, absolutely love him. When they draft from the second they drafted him, I was hyping him up. Even when he was getting 3 carries a game, I was hyping him up. But
yeah,
it's the situation. It's not a good offense because I think Watson is going to miss half the season. And like you said, he has Kareem Hunt. They don't overwork him, which is great for his health and long-term being, but not great for fantasy.
Yeah. I would not be as high on Nick Chubb. Mixon is a wild card because he's had health issues until last year, and then he played all of his games, and then he busted out his top 5 or top 6. I would take a flyer on Mixon. I think you guys are missing the boat on DeAndre Swift and Javonte Williams both. DeAndre Swift more than Javonte Williams. DeAndre Swift was on target with Jamal Williams healthy. He was on pace for something like top 3 in targets for wide receivers. Might have even been top 2. I think might have even been top 1 through his first 8 or 9 healthy games. He's got an injury history, but if he's healthy, he's Christian McCaffrey light. And they have clearly shown that he's going to be the number 1 or number 2 target, probably number 2, I would say, comfortably in that offense. And even if it's half point PPR, doesn't matter. That's going to be, there were games where he had 5+ catches, multiple games where he had 5+ catches. Jones, I agree with you to an extent, but I also went down a rabbit hole trying to research the guy that I was like, that's a kind of a lesser known fantasy analyst on Twitter, and he did a deep dive of the 5 or 6 games that the sample size that you have of no Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones in the past, and there were 3 games or something like that where he had like 5 or 6 targets or less. And he caught like 4 or 5 of them. Some one of them got boosted up with a touchdown. There was one that got boosted up because it went absolutely ballistic and had like 8 catches for like 140 yards or something like that. And then there were 3 other games. And then one of those games, Alan Lazard or MVS out-touched him. And so part of me says, by default, he's a great wide receiver, and I think he's going to get he is going to get more of the upside this year. No doubt he's going to get more receiving touches. I think they are truly going to do a 50% split this year. And that is just driving me crazy because I would much rather have Swift because I think Swift is more of the McCaffrey type. I would rather have Williams. By the way, if you're looking at sample sizes, 1 game last year without Melvin Gordon truly, and Javonte Williams had 29 fantasy points. So, yes, people are blowing that up. I think that's not the standard, but I think there is some rumblings that it's going to be his show this year, and Melvin's going to back him up. I think if they're smart, they probably do that. I think Jones is going to get a boost. I don't think he's going to be as high as people are saying, 30% target share. I don't think that happens. I'll move on to the next guy. I think Saquon is going to be top 10 this year.
I was gonna say Saquon's one of the guys I like a lot. So you can keep going
on Saquon.
You can keep going.
I think Saquon jumps. I think Saquon finishes better than out of these guys. If Javonte does not get the true target share, he's going to finish better than Javonte. I think he's got a serious shot to finish between. I think he will finish above Kamara and Jones. Kamara because of the suspension. Jones because Saquon gets all of the targets that Jones will get because of volume, and he gets the running side of it and won't get sniped at the goal line. They just have a sucky team. So volume there. Lenny apparently came in at 260, so I was really hoping he was going to repeat this year.
I am very low on Lenny because I am kind of low on the Buccaneers. And the idea is, all right, Tom Brady said he was going to retire. And you can see it really affected, like, it affected Lenny. He came in overweight. Gronk didn't come back. And it's like, all right, Brady's like, all right, I'm going to come back a month after saying I'm retired. And I feel like that month kind of just hit reset on the Bucs mentality going into the season. And I think it's just like a crapshoot right now. And Brady's only back because he wanted to go to Miami, and then that went to straight fire because of the Flores case. So I don't know. I'm kind of low on the motivation living in Tampa Bay. Of course, they're still going to go 11-6, 12-5, or whatever because they are in awful division.
Yeah, and Lenny got paid too, so he has no motivation.
The old Ezekiel Elliott treatment, huh?
No motivation. By the way, I think, man, I think David Montgomery is right where he needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
He's a volume guy. He's not overly talented. Him and Josh Jacobs, to me, are very similar. Not overly talented. He's not. DeAndre Swift has an incredible amount of talent. Jones, incredible amount of talent. Williams, Kamara, all those guys have talent. These guys are just pure opportunity. He's good, but he's not like, they didn't extend Monty this year, so that's another thing. You gotta look at the contract situation. Chose not to extend Monty yet this year. They chose not to extend Jacobs this year. They had options and they said, prove it. That means that they're not bought in on him. I think Zeke has a chance to bounce back this year. Yes, I get Tony Pollard is there. I think that they are going to use Tony Pollard a little bit differently this year. That was a wide receiver in college. I mean,
they need wide receivers. Have you seen their receiving room? Gallup's out for 6 weeks. All right, let's give it to Ken for a minute. Ken, what are you thinking?
So the only thing, I mean, yes, I don't like how Leonard Fournette looks, but man, I'm not sold that Tom Brady's gonna go in and not show up like that. He's moved that offense the last 2 years. I mean,
I'm not saying they're not gonna show up. I said they're 12-5. I just think
they're gonna score, and I think he's gonna fall into the end zone, and he's got the mass to do it. You know,
you know how hard it's gonna be to stop at 260. Oh my gosh, I'm picturing of the meme of Mac when Dennis is trying to push him. And It's Always Sunny, and he's like, "You can't move me, I'm a mountain."
Lenny Lacey now.
Yeah.
So, but no. So Zeke, looking more into like his injury, I gotta tell you, it definitely gets overlooked. He had a partially torn PCL. Now, in case you guys don't know, like that's the opposite ligament of the ACL in the knee. Really important. It's a huge stabilizer. It's actually, probably more, it's hard to say, but more likely, more important than the MCL or LCL in the knee. Certainly more important than the meniscus. There's certain instability with that tear. That is a huge injury to play through. And it's true, players really get bottomed out for playing through injuries. But, Zeke looks good in camp. Yes, Tony Pollard's good. He's going to rip into some of this time. But when you talk about a bounce back, I'm not expecting him to be top 5 again. But, if he snuck into the top, 10 to 12, certainly wouldn't surprise me. Love Saquon. A big one I want to talk about is Cam Akers. So he's getting a lot of hate for coming back from that Achilles injury last year. First off, you talk to anyone, an Achilles injury is to play competitive for a competitive athlete, 1.5 years, easy. So he's back at 6 months, and he doesn't look good. But the fact that he was back at 6 months is all you need to hear. You talk about this healing trajectory. Oh, you're not going to be full speed up until 15 months, but he shouldn't have even been playing till absolute minimum 9 months. And so I think that if you put him back on that trajectory, he's in a good offense, and they clearly believe in him. I'm sorry, who else is there right now besides Darrell Henderson? Darrell Henderson did nothing to say
pretty good the first 6-7 months. I had him last year.
Oh, no, he was good for fantasy, but if you watched him play, man,
dude, he runs
so
hard. But like if the wind blows too hard, it just knocks him over because he's one of ththose guys
He
that
was-
like puts all of his weight in the upper body. He has no stability. He just falls over.
Top
Cam,
heavy.
yeah, well, Cam Akers is definitely a better running back than him. They clearly believe in him starting from last year. No, he probably shouldn't have gotten as much playtime in the playoffs, but he's certainly one that I'm definitely he's almost in that Aaron Jones group with people I think can jump a tier, like more than likely to. So I'm real big on Cam this year.
I think Cam Akers is another one. Like as we keep going through these, like guys on good offenses or people who have offenses that can produce, I think he's one that could actually play very well. Zeke, I think the Cowboys offense can be good just because they play bad defenses. I hate that the Cowboys get to be good because of their opponents. It drives me crazy. I don't know. I'm not drafting.
You're not changing divisions, man. It's every year.
And it makes me angry every year. But like, yeah, even in the Super Bowl, Cam Akers wasn't playing well, but they still fed him 13 to 4 carries versus Darrell Henderson. So the Rams are definitely one of those teams that if they like you, they're gonna run you into the ground. They're gonna give you 25 carries, and until you prove that you don't deserve it. So Cam Akers is one that I think could have a lot of good upside. Let's go on to this next group. We're gonna go to Gibson, Connor, and Jacobs. These are all guys I'm fully avoiding because I honestly hate their offenses. James Conner fell into the end zone so many times, and I'm so happy for him for it. But like, if someone else, if their receivers, catch the ball and go into the end zone instead of tackled at the 1 or the 2, he doesn't have nearly as good a year. I don't think his yards per carry was good. I think that was probably like in the 3.5 kind of range. So not impressive. And then Antonio Gibson on Washington. Come on. It's Washington. And then lastly, Josh Jacobs. They just drafted a new running back, and I love their offense. They're going to throw more touchdowns. Carr only had 23 passing touchdowns last year, so I think that kind of script flips where he gets more passing touchdowns and the rushing touchdowns go down.
Definitely with the Jacobs, man. I just hope you're right on that because I want to see them pass more. Their offense is set up to do it. Just do it. But no, last year Jacobs is just getting so many of these carries, these high percentage, high money ones, falling into the end zone. I'd definitely like to see them throw out a little more.
All right. Oh, and it's Josh McDaniels. It is a much more aggressive coach than what they had last year, so I expect more passes. Anyways, Connor, go ahead, break down your take on these three, and the next group is going to be a real big one, and I'll explain why.
Jacobs, I think, is fine where he is. Like, he's good. He'll be the lead. James Conner got paid, so they'll probably feed him, but he's gonna have TD regression, so I think that's gonna be a problem for his fantasy. I really want Antonio Gibson to do really well. Is
he just one of those guys you like you just watch him play and you like it, but it just doesn't work?
He could have been great last year, but he kind of got hurt, and then he went on a tear, and then kind of fizzled out again.
J.D. McKissick steals his passes, even though he was another one that was a receiver in college.
Re-signing J.D. McKissick is a problem.
Yeah,
because he had a chance to go to Buffalo. Should have went to Buffalo because he could have probably had a chance to be the guy in Buffalo, and he didn't. And they came back and paid him a little bit better. So that tells me that they're going to use him. And to be, a guy who jumps tiers up, you got to have the PPR upside. He doesn't. He won't. Same with Jacobs. I mean, Jacobs will probably have it out of the backfield a little bit more than Gibson, but Kenyon Drake comes back, which they paid him. They drafted Zamir White.
Third round, too. It's not like they
we're talking guys that have pretty significant draft capital behind them. So, crowded, and you gotta remember, McDaniels loves him some committees, so I would avoid Jacobs. But
all right, how do you feel about
he
Connor?
I've seen other threads where he's like gonna come out and be like, "Oh, he's the number one. He's gonna be the bell cow." Blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about Jimmy Connor? I don't think anyone has ever called him Jimmy, so I'm trying to change it.
What's interesting is he got all these catches last year, but they picked up Keontae Ingram, I think, right? I think Keontae Ingram is the guy they drafted out of USC. Great hands out of the backfield, but they also picked up Darrell Williams. That was a secret kind of sneaky pick for them. Darrell Williams had some games last year, like had some really high grades in PFF out of the backfield catching passes.
He can also steal that goal line work. Connor won't be the full goal line back.
Yeah, these are all three guys probably in the right area for me. You can get them later than third or fourth. I would take them. I'd be taking wide receivers in these rounds.
I was gonna say. So now what I'm gonna bring up is this big range. It goes from Eli Mitchell all the way down to Kareem Hunt. And I bring up this whole range because these are guys I'm genuinely targeting in drafts based on the Fantasy Pros draft simulator that I've done. How I see my drafts going right now is I get 2 or 3 receivers in the first 3 rounds, and then I'm stockpiling on guys in this section who I think have a lot of upside, and they don't carry as much risk. When I looked at those top running back options, I kept bringing up things that scared about me, whether it's bad offense, whether it's injury history or something like that. And this group, it's like, okay, I get some of that upside, but with a lot less draft capital invested. And I also believe, we'll cover this in the wide receiver section, but I believe top-end wide receivers are really separating, and I think they can make a big difference. But anyway,
so you're basically going zero RB strategy.
Pretty much. I don't always do it, but I think it works this year. Anyways, that was my explanation on giving the my draft context for what we're looking at. Anyways, Eli Mitchell all the way down to Kareem Hunt are guys that I find myself probably getting 2, 3, maybe 4 of, hopefully, in my mock drafts or simulated drafts.
So just to go on what you're saying with the zero RB, I don't know if you guys heard like the hero RB, but I kind of like that one where you get one higher pick first or second round and then kind of load up on these like mid round type of guys. But I'll tell you just real quick, I'll run through the players that I don't like in this group first because I really like most of them, but like Eli Mitchell, Damian Harris, CEH, and I'm kind of torn on Devin Singletary, but like besides that, like I don't know. I really like the upside from this group.
Connor, what are you thinking about this group? I'll give my explanation why I like them in a minute.
Don't like Damian Harris. He was propped up by.
He had like 10 rushing touchdowns. I'm with you.
Last year. I actually have in Dynasty. I took Ramondre over.
Oh, sorry, 15 rushing touchdowns. So way more propped up than we thought.
Yeah. I think Ramondre actually has potentially the upside to be the guy there. He just needs to get himself not put himself in the doghouse. That's why he lost the job.
Don't fumble on the game-winning drive in week 1.
Yeah. I am super high on Breece Hall and Travis Etienne and even J.K. Dobbins. I don't like CEH will be okay. I'm high on A.J. Dillon. I'm not really high on anybody else. If it's Kareem Hunt is there, I'll take him. But in this area, oh, by the way, San Francisco has had a different leading rusher in the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I understand Elijah Mitchell. I'm more torn on Elijah Mitchell than I am Devin Singletary because 11 game sample size, nearly 1,000 yards rushing for Elijah Mitchell. Has a little bit of receiving upside. But again, Shanahan drafted a 3rd-round running back again. And he has Trey Sermon, who was a 3rd running back last year. The only thing that I think Elijah Mitchell has a problem with is he was a 6th-round running back. They've got nothing invested in him. You follow the money here. Breece Hall, dude's going to play. He's going to play a lot. J.K. Dobbins, I really want him to work out. He's a Buck guy, but I keep hearing all this pup stuff, and dude was like the number 3 running back to get in last year's draft because of Mark Ingram leaving. Then he got hurt, and now you're kind of like, well, which one is it? I don't know. So, Dylan, crazy upside. I just there are either people in this list that I am going after, like ETN, my opinion. top 10 or 15. I think he takes hold of the Jags backfield. James Robinson is going to be Marlon Mack. That's what I think is going to happen.
All right, yeah. So my quick rundown on these guys. Eli Mitchell, I'm terrified of the San Francisco thing, but if it works out, he's going to be great. So you get that great upside here. And also, if you're worried about that, go grab Trey Sermon, go grab their 3rd-round pick, later in the draft, and you can have both and get the insurance. But Breece Hall, like you said, he's a 1st-rounder for a Jets team that I think will be better. But regardless, as the year goes, he's one of those guys that probably will split time at the start of the year and take over as the year goes on. So it gives you more upside throughout. And then love J.K. Dobbins. The Ravens have no one to throw the ball to. Like, they're going to run the ball. And I think Ian Rappaport was like, he might miss week 1. And then he, retweeted it and was like, yeah, dude, I'm playing football week 1. Don't even joke around.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, all these guys are coming out with spat. Lenny said something about, the comments that were made at him, too. There's one thing that worries me, and that's just, hey, man, your employer gets to tell you when you get to play, dummy. If they say you're on the
Cam
pup,
Akers.
You're on the pup.
That's a Baker Mayfield, man.
yeah. Okay. See where Baker's at. That was dumb of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think JK has a secret upside if his knee is better than expected, which he says it is. Mm-hmm. Everyone else says it's not. He could easily sneak into the top 10.
Well, it's not their knee, okay? It's his knee. He knows how it works. Right. But really, the 2 guys I like the most in the section, A.J. Dillon, Miles Sanders. A.J. Dillon, he is going to get the grinded out yards for the Packers. So he's going to get, those 4, he'll have 10 carries going into the 4th and end with 24 carries for 100 yards and a touchdown or something stupid. And then Miles Sanders, I think we saw his floor last year because at the start of the year, they didn't use him. Then they realized, oh, we're a run-first team. I know they have better receiving options, but I really think his touchdown total was so bad. I don't think he scored a touchdown last year. And so I think, obviously, he has great upside and regression through there. He's definitely the best running back in Philadelphia. So I'm just high on him. And then Kareem Hunt, he's that guy that always has the upside of once the starter goes down. A.J. Dillon has this too. Once the starter goes down, they're locked in RB1. They'd be a top, 10 pick if they were the only running back in their offense. Of course, they aren't. But lastly, Devin Singletary's in this list. He and Damian Harris are the 2 guys that I know I said I like everyone in this list. They're the 2 I try to avoid the most. And that's just because they're in, I think, bad situation committees. So we can move on now and start to get to the, I guess we're looking more at handcuffs now. Or receiving backs.
So from here, the one person I kind of see myself getting a lot is Rashad Penny. I mean, he balled out at the end of last year. Seattle, they're gonna have to run. I mean, are you gonna give the ball to Geno Smith? No, I know Kenneth Walker's there, but Pete Carroll, just in general, is not giving rookies, the heavy workload. I mean, I wouldn't be. The whole thing is, can he keep up? Is he going to fall apart? He's fallen apart so many different times, but he's still. Look at the end of last year. He certainly still had it. At least, especially when I'm drafting, I definitely draft for the beginning of the year, just because things change so much, in the fantasy league, and you're adding and dropping the whole time. But I could see him coming out real strong. So definitely like Rashad Penny in this group.
Yeah, I'm with you on Rashad Penny. I'm low on Ken Walker. I was watching some highlights from him. He seems like a guy who is very good at turning a 5-yard carry into a 10-yard carry because of his burst, but he is not a guy that looks like he can turn a 2-yard carry into a 3-yard carry, and I think that'll be a problem with that Seattle offensive line. 1, because it's terrible. 2, because that's, what's it called? Pete Carroll's, mentality. He wants to see guys who, get that extra yard, not the extra burst.
How far are we going down on this list? From what?
Wherever you want to talk about, because I really think it's kind of a crapshoot at this point.
It is. There would be 6 guys I'd target here. Pollard for sure. I think they're going to throw to him a lot. I think he got anywhere from 10 to 15 touches last year. I think that stays. I think it's probably closer. 10 to 15 is probably about right, but I think they're more volume touches now. I think that they're value touches, I should say. I think they're going to pass the ball to him a lot.
I could see
Ramondre
him filling in as that like slot guy because they need a new one.
Yep, I think that's what they're going to do with him, and I think that that's not going to go away when what's his name comes back. Gallup comes back. I think they play two different positions. I'm not really all that scared of Jalen Tolbert right now. Chase Edmonds, highest paid in that draft room. If you're going to take a stab at it, it's going to be Chase Edmonds.
All right, so are you low on Melvin Gordon? You said you're high on Javonte Williams. Are you low on Melvin Gordon here? Or are you like, you know what? I need a RB3/flex. I have 3 good receivers. So I'm just gonna grab him, and I know he'll get touches and maybe a couple touchdowns.
I think that they do. I think he's got health issues. He's 29. I think that if it was between him and Edmonds, I would take Edmonds. Gordon is like, he's got great like stats. Like if you go deep dive, he's got great YPC. He actually had, I think, something like a handful less catches out of the backfield than Javonte, and people don't realize that. They re-signed him, but I'm also thinking he's just cup chasing here. Hey, I could have gone somewhere else and been potentially the guy for one more year. I think I'd rather be on a good team with Russell Wilson now and try and go win a Super Bowl. Nyheim Hines. I think Nyheim Hines is Tony Pollard-esque. I think that Frank Reich came out and said that he's going to use him like the same way. If you're reaching here, 2 guys. I would get Marlon Mack for sure, and I would get Rachaad White for sure. Because at the end of the day, and maybe Tyler Algier. At the end of the day, you got to look for in this round who has the opportunity to actually become an RB1, and not an RB1 in fantasy, the RB1 for volume. Marlon Mack's going to be that guy. I know that Dameon Pierce everyone is darling right now, but Marlon Mack's 26. He's proven. They're going to give him to him early and say, lose the job or win the job. And then Rachaad White, we talked about Lenny. Rachaad White was one of the highest rated pass catchers. I think was the highest rated pass catcher in this draft this past year. Lenny's going to have, I think, in my opinion, I think Lenny's going to have PPR regression for his catches out of the backfield, especially if he's coming in at 260. They're not going to let him rumble and stumble out of the backfield that much.
Have you ever seen him catch a ball too? He looks awful. Like it looks like he does the whole catch it, control it, and then run. It's not smooth. It doesn't make. He can't make a guy miss.
Yeah, no. And then Tyler Algier. Rumor is Cordero Patterson's going to be moved out more to wide receiver this year. They drafted him fairly high. Opportunity at this round. You look for opportunity this late.
Yep.
That's all. Yep. That's all you can hope for.
All right, Ken. Anyone you are looking to grab here?
Going through like the list that I have here, we hit a bunch of them, but love Chase Edmonds. I got Melvin Gordon. I mean, just there's a chance at the opportunity there. I have Tyler Algier as well. I was just hearing a lot like he looks really like refined as a like first and second down back, early down back, looks good. They don't have it there in Atlanta. I mean, it's a why not? He could get some good volume there. But the one person I like, and we just talk about, typically, want a guy who can pass catch. You're making fun of Leonard Fournette, but he made Rojo look ridiculous in terms of receiving. But I just think that watching Rojo run, I mean, he has talent, and it looks good. And especially, on a Pat Mahomes-led team, I mean, it really could. He could really add like some explosiveness that I'll just be honest, I don't like watching CEH run. I just don't think he has it. Especially hearing CEH had his gallbladder taken out this offseason. Not a big deal, but they're like, he was down to 165 pounds. I'm like, man, he didn't have strength enough before that. He's going to weigh 165 pounds. Are you kidding me? But I think he just runs with a little more authority. I like that. And then kind of just a last pick of your draft. Big Mark Ingram, he could be a starter there for 6 weeks. Just a why not? Like, this is really just when you talk about like shot in the dark. But for literally your last pick in the draft, not horrible.
Yeah, all right. So I agree with you on most of those guys. I'm just gonna cover the ones that I like. Also, James Cook, give me the running back in Buffalo. And I think, again, these are late round flyers. If he's sitting on my bench and looks like the better running back early, Singletary will go to the bench. I think we saw Singletary take over as the lead running back, and we saw what a lead running back in Buffalo could do. If James Cook has it, what was he, a second round pick? So, I mean, he's nothing to scoff at. Isaiah Spiller, we talked about Eckler and how he doesn't do all the running for the team. Well, someone else has to do the carries then, and Isaiah Spiller, I think, could be that guy. I know they have, Justin Jackson and someone else, but I think Isaiah Spiller was drafted for a reason, and I think he can flash. And then last one, Gus Edwards. We talked about J.K. Dobbins, how he has question marks, and how we're taking him in the middle because, you can kind of buy that risk. Well, if there's risk associated, Gus Edwards would be the one to benefit from it if J.K. Dobbins has to sit out anytime. And again, Baltimore has a terrible passing game set up right now. They have Rashad Bateman and they have Mark Andrews. And they're going to be running the ball. And I still think they're a great football team. I think whoever's the starting running back there is still very viable and can be like a high-end RB2, if not RB1. So, last one, Jamal Williams. Connor touched on DeAndre Swift's injury problems. He gets hurt. Jamal Williams looked great in that offense.
Oh, by the way, I just want you guys to know this in the Dynasty draft that we just did, me and my other buddies did. I have DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. I have Lenny Fournette and Rashad White. I have Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. And I got made blasted for it. I'm like, listen, if any of those guys go down, I have immediately their handcuff.
Is this PPR?
It is.
Yeah, so point.
What are you talking about?
These guys, they could actually be playable together. It's obviously not a situation you want, but I had a team with Zeke and Tony Pollard last year, and there was a few weeks where I'm like, I'll play them both. It's no problem.
Yeah.
I mean, you might be able to play JK and Gus Edwards if they just go total run heavy, forget about everything else. I mean,
if they're up in Buffalo, yeah, I'm definitely going to do that. If they're playing Buffalo like the Mac Jones game last year where he threw the ball 4 times, yeah, I'm playing them both.
All right. So that covers all the running backs. You guys have any last pieces of information, maybe draft advice, maybe something we didn't cover?
Go get Travis Etienne. I think he is going to be top 10 this year.
Are you scared about the Doug Peterson offense? I am not at all because I think he throws to his running backs, but I just know he used a committee previously.
Throws to his running backs. He doesn't have a committee early. I mean, somebody was like, oh, what about Snoop Connor? I was like, who? Yeah, Snoop Connor is this rookie that they drafted that was middle rounds or something like that. I guess he's pretty good, but I haven't seen anything on him. Etienne was one of the highest rated ever. We're talking in rarefied air of top 5 rated running backs to ever be graded coming out of college. We're talking way up there, up with Christian McCaffrey. He had that Liz Frank injury, and people are like, well, we're not sure anymore. Just pure talent alone, he was one of the highest rated ever. So I think that comes back.
So I was looking into that Liz Frank injury because Etienne, he was on my must draft list with Cam and Aaron Jones, but it shows people are typically gets about 80% of where they were previous. But that was looking at same season, and he he had the whole year to heal from it. So I'm not as concerned, but no, I didn't get to say as we're going through, but love ETN as well, absolutely.
I think he got hurt this time last year.
Yep.
Yeah, it was. I think preseason. Yeah.
Yeah, long time.
Yeah, a lot of the guys we mentioned coming back with questions from injury, they got hurt middle of the year. He's had plenty of time to recover.
Yeah. The J.K. Dobbins thing's a little confusing, but also the James Robinson, once again, Achilles. Unless you're looking at a heroic return, I don't know what you're expecting. He wasn't that talented to begin with, let alone explosive. So.
Yeah, he had the volume, and now guaranteed he's losing at least third down work because of how good ETN is at that. So, all right, yeah. Last piece of advice, Ken said it. Grab Mark Ingram last in your draft, but worst case, you cut him after the first 2 weeks. Best case, he starts for you for 6 weeks. All right.